Hello, hello, hello. It's Dr. Daigle here of Mom and Me MD, which is a fourth trimester newborn postpartum care service for moms and their babies designed to ease their transition home after delivering of their baby. And I provide in home care and virtual care, specifically for those in Atlanta. And one of the things I wanted to talk about today is I'm a part of a postpartum support group filled with moms who are dealing with different issues that arise um, in the postpartum period. Is when a relationship is dissolving after or even perhaps during the birth of a child. So either during pregnancy, the relationship is strained, and then after the birth of the baby, it becomes further strained and ended up in separation and divorce. And this happens a lot more than we realize. Um, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that baby brings a lot of changes and a lot of strain to relationships because it's new. And you're dealing with sleep deprivations, high emotions, um, feeling overwhelmed with everything that you have to keep up with as a task or a lot more with having a new baby and as a new person to consider. And sometimes we learn a lot about ourselves and other people's in times of transition and change. And sometimes it brings out the best in us, and sometimes it doesn't bring out the best in us. And so um, one of the things that I know is true, just like with having a child, is you still have to find a way to move forward despite things happening that you did not plan for, which happens a lot often with children, even outside of a relationship change. Just say if the child is born and is sick or unexpected medical issues with mom or baby. These are still tips the tips I'm going to share with you today are things that can be used in any situation when you find yourself dealing with a situation that you didn't expect and you kind of find yourself reeling. These are the ways that you can move forward. So, first thing, no, it is hard. It is hard having a baby, going through all the emotional, physical, and mental changes that occur. And it's harder when things are not in place, like support systems. If people are not as financially well off, they don't have family or friends nearby, depending on the type of career and any extenuating circumstances, like with regard to the health and well being of mom and baby. And so this is not something that is easy to undertake. And so it's just hard, period. And then anything else on top of that just upsets that balance. But I would like to propose to you the three A's that I suggest for how people can manage and kind of move forward when they find themselves dealing with separation or divorce after the birth of a baby. And by no means is this something that is quick. It's just that these are steps that eventually would have to be taken in order to move forward to a place where you feel in control of your life again and that you're living a life that you love. And the first thing is to acknowledge your feelings. So, a lot of times, especially as moms, and even outside of a separation and divorce, but just in general, after having a baby, we tend to take on a lot and internalize a lot of our feelings and our thoughts. One, either we just don't want to be a bother to other people, or we just don't really feel like other people will understand what we're going through, or we're just used to dealing with things, right? Like we're just going to get through it, or it's just the way it is. And sometimes, while while you may get through it, and that may just be the way it currently is, it's so important to validate the feelings that you have around the relationship change, because it's like having that expectation not being met, and it's a grief of sorts. It's like a loss, and you will be grieving. So it's important to acknowledge the frustration and the anger and perhaps any guilt, and worry that you'll have, because now you may have expected to have this person to care, help you raise this child in the same home at least, and now it's going to be a split home, and then you worried about the well-being of your child, and we even go so far as to thinking way long down the road about things and how will it impact their lives and our lives, and all of these feelings are valid, and that's the point. So it's acknowledging them, either through writing in journal and or pursuing counseling or therapy. All of these avenues are healthy. It's important to really dig deep and specifically put names to those feelings, as that's the only way that you can address them and move forward. The second step is to accept that life will be different. So sometimes we get stuck when things happen and it leaves us reeling. Sometimes that we kind of can descend into a depression of sorts, because it's almost unbelievable that we're going through this, whatever that is. And for sure, if it's a relationship, a change in a divorce, I don't think anyone goes into a relationship thinking this relationship is not going to last. You have hopes and dreams, and you hope to build out your life with a person, and then to come to find out that that is not what's going to happen, it can leave you reeling. But accepting that it will be different is a huge step, and then it will allow you to say, you know what, this has happened, this is the way that it will be. So then how can I position myself to move forward? And you'll vacillate in between these three steps. When I get to the last step, you're going to kind of be going through this. It's a process, and it's a step, taking a step back and a taking a step forward. There's really no time limit on it. Just like with grief, everybody's process and time schedule can be a little bit different, just depending on your natural personality and how you just tend to manage grief and loss, period. But definitely having support, and having a plan, and for security for yourself definitely does go a long way towards helping you. But accepting it is key, is a key step. And the last A is action. So taking action to move forward. And so when you're going through a divorce or separation after having a baby, there's a lot of planning that has to be involved, a lot of things that have to be considered. And this is not an overnight process. There's legal things to be handled about custody. There's where you will stay, where the other person will stay. There's like the finances of it all. And these are just some of the things that can leave someone crippled, because it is a lot to consider. I mean, you've merged your life with this person, and that happens at various degrees for different couples. But the well-being, your well-being, and even the dad or partner's well-being, everybody's well-being matters. The well-being of you and your baby matters too. And so still making sure that you are in a place of taking care of yourself, that you have your needs met, that the needs of the baby are being met, are still very, very important things on this process. It's because even without a divorce or a separation, the fourth trimester and the postpartum period is a huge transition period for families, and part of why sometimes there is strain on relationships, and it really takes a little bit of giving and take. I will say this: if you're at the point of separation and not divorce, there still is time. And even if you're considering divorce but haven't like filed the actual paperwork yet, there are tips and ways through counseling therapy that you can kind of build that bond again, that sometimes can be disrupted with the life change of a baby. And it really just has to do with communication and both people bringing things to the table, and having that team approach towards taking care of the baby versus a tit for that type of approach. Um, Either way, it won't be easy, but it is possible to have a new life that you love. And that's whether you go through forward with separation or divorce, or whether you somehow are able to walk your way back from those steps into a loving relationship. the reality is your life does change after having a baby. And it's either being willing to accept that new change and plan out how you can pivot together or apart as a family is going to be vital for each of you's success and for the nurturing and development of that child. Um, Definitely, children should grow up in the loving household, and it's ideal that it's in a two-parent household, but children can grow up in a loving household that's not two-parent, because kids are very sharp. As a pediatrician, I know this. They can pick up on tension and not love, and the behaviors and language and mannerisms. So even when people are staying together for their kids, the kids know this. And so we want to set an example of healthiness for our kids in all areas of our lives. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Again, it's acknowledging your feelings. Your feelings matter, they're valid, your experience matters. It's accepting that life will be different, and that's like whether you move forward or not with separation divorce, and then taking action towards a life, developing a life that you can love. And again, it's giving yourself grace. This really doesn't have a time limit, because it's working, it's people, and it's working out processes and things, but it is possible. Finding support groups. I'm definitely available for postpartum consultation if you just even need to talk through some of these things to even just get a plan for your next step. You can go to my link and book that. But I really care about the family unit. I know I'm a mom and baby champion, but I really care about families and strength of families, and people, and just knowing that as people, we're all just trying to make it, and in many ways a lot of us need to improve a lot of things in our character, right? And sometimes things like having a baby and going through hard times and struggle actually brings some people closer together, because it allows them to know what they're made of, and reveal the toughness of that love. So um thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this talk. I hope that it has helped you if you are going through a divorce or separation. And I'm very sorry to hear that. But I do still believe that you can have a life worth living and that you love. And if you know anyone in Atlanta that's looking for an in-home pediatrician, tell them to book my free meet and greet to see if they would be want to book my services. I would go through the services with them during that call. I also have virtual postpartum consultations for moms that are dealing with overwhelm, exhaustion, if you have a baby in the NICU. And also, I have mommy calls. So if you're just in a tight spot and something's going on with your baby and you have questions about feeding, their behavior, just anything that you feel like you need some kind of strategy for who to talk to or who you might need to consult with moving forward, I help out with that too. So just hit up my link tree, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.